Hi, everyone. My name is Christine Lee. Welcome back to another episode of Wisdom of the Word podcast, a podcast on faith, healing, and business in our lives. Today, we have a special guest, the creator of Life Source Academy, Pastor Craig Von Ye, with us. And I'm super excited to talk about this new program that we are offering.
Yeah.
And it's really about a journey to identity, to your purpose, and to your destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Craig, I'd love for you to share with us a little bit about what this program is about. And I have a series of questions that I might ask you, and we can just kind of riff and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Just flow.
Awesome. So the first question I have is, you say truth is easy to miss. Can you explain why it's so hard for people to actually find truth about who they are?
Sure. Yeah. Everything really is based on worldview. When it comes to truth, it comes to who we are, identity, it's all worldview. We begin developing a worldview before we're even born. Scripture tells us that God created us in our mother's womb. He knit us together in our mother's womb. It tells us that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. Everything we do, think, before we even say it, God knows those things. It's not that he determines it, he knows those things. It's his foreknowledge. So God knows all of that. So Scripture also says that before we were knowable, we were known. That's kind of a hard thing to grasp. Before we were able to be known, God knew who we were, knew all about us, because he's the one who knit us together. He created us very uniquely. Our personalities, our traits. He created all those things within inside of us. And then we're in our mother's womb for 9 months. That's the only world we know. And so in that world, we're being developed and designed by God. We're being nurtured by God, loved by God. It's a world of peace and safety and security and absolute truth. So for 9 months, that's all we know is truth. And then we're born into this world. So to enter into this world, there has to be a bridge between the world we knew and the world that we enter into. So we enter into this world, and from the very beginning, well-intending family and friends and a broken world begins to give us their opinions and their descriptions and their ideas, their truths in their lives. And it all begins to, supposed to mesh with what we already know as truth. But as infants, as children, somehow we realize it's not meshing. As the older we grow, the more we realize what we once knew as truth is no longer truth. And suddenly we realize that truth is no longer a certainty, it's a journey. So we begin to move on this journey of discovering what really is true when we once knew what was true. That's the difficulty. And that's why it's easy to miss. We have to learn how to develop a worldview that makes sense to us based on what we know deep inside is really true. Does that make sense?
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So what are the 5 points of necessity that you cover in the first session, and why is the order of this actually important?
Yeah, the steps really, there's the lie, and there's many lies, but there's a lie that really impacts our life from the very, very beginning. It's important that we understand what that lie is, and I'll get into it later, not now. It's kind of, I want to give it away. But then there's the word. What is the word that describes who we really are? If we really have something that describes us deep inside, what is that word? And then there's the question about how does that work? How do we get past the lie? How do we understand that word that it not only impacts but that defines us? And then we have to discover the truth. The truth is how this all comes together. How do we work from this now new realization? And then the problems that come our way because of this. So it's really important we go step by step, because if we don't start with the lie, then we stand on something that doesn't hold. It's not a foundation. So what is not true? We start there. And then what describes us? So how does who we are stand firm on what is true now? So yeah, so it's really important. The process is important. As long as you get all 5, that's important. But the process makes it smoother for you to understand.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So how has misunderstanding truth impacted people's lives and identities from your experience?
Yeah. If we don't know truth, then everything becomes a truth. And that's the world we live in today. Everyone has a truth. But logically speaking, there can't be truths. Anyone who studies logic, philosophy of logic understands any conflicting truth can't be both truth. If this truth conflicts with this truth, They can't both be true. If you say you think the grass is green, I say, no, it's brown. Which is true. They can't both be true.
Yeah.
Now, if people say, well, it's your truth, well, that's ridiculous. Truth is truth. It's not my truth or your truth. It's not the world's truth. It's truth. We have to understand that truth is truth. And so many times, the world that we live in tries to tell us that there is no such thing as truth. There's no such thing as right or wrong or black or white. Everything's gray. Everything's acceptable. And that's refusing to see truth. I had someone recently asked me the question, and I haven't been asked this many times. Recently, again, someone said, well, I don't believe in one truth. I believe in truths, and I don't believe in right or wrong. I said, and he goes, what do you think about that? How do you respond to that? I said, so you don't believe there's a right and a wrong? He goes, yeah. I said, well, I do believe there's a right and a wrong. Am I right or am I wrong? And that's the bottom line. If you can't land on truth, you don't land on anything, and everything becomes truth.
Yeah.
And now your life is a mess.
Yeah.
There's no certainty. There's only confusion. Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
And so the question of purpose, why am I? Why do you believe purpose must come before identity?
Yeah. This is the question that is probably the most asked, because the four questions everybody who lives, has ever lived, will ever live, has the four questions, because it comes from worldview. But worldview becomes personal worldview. Personal worldview is, who am I? Why am I? What makes me different or unique? And what's my destiny? Everybody wants to know the answers to those questions. It's everybody wants that. So the problem is most people start with, who am I? The problem when you start with who am I is the who is then becomes based on what you do, your successes, your failures, your achievements. You become, I'm a father, I'm a mother, I'm an architect, I'm this. Your who becomes what you do in life, and your who has nothing to do with what you do in life. Because if your who is based on what you do in life, then your who is always changing. My identity is always changing. There's no permanency or consistency in my identity, because my identity is what I'm doing in life. But when you discover your purpose in life, your who comes from your what. My purpose, my why. Why am I here on planet Earth?
Yeah.
What is my purpose? When I discover why I'm here, then my who becomes very obvious, and my who doesn't change because my why doesn't change. And that's what people don't grasp. I have a purpose. What is my purpose? And this, even for Christians, they wrestle with this because I've asked so many Christians, why are you here on planet Earth? And I've heard a plethora of answers. And what I always say is, And you know what that means? Is there's so many things that we think are purposeful in our life. That's what our purpose is. And so many books have been written about it. But the bottom line is, why did God create you?
Yeah.
Why did he place you this right now on planet Earth? Why you're here will tell you who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you already answered my next question, which is what happens when people try to answer who am I before they understand why am I.
Yeah, it's major confusion.
Yeah.
Again, it's not consistency. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't really land on who you are. Who you are becomes variable. It's a variable of what day is it, what month is it, what year is it, what did I succeed in doing, what did I fail in doing, and there's no consistency.
That's so helpful, and something that I'm learning as well, because all of my life I feel like I was looking for love, identity, and purpose.
Yeah.
The foundations of, who am I, why am I?
Yeah, exactly.
All of it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Going into who am I, how does knowing your purpose fortify your sense of identity?
Yeah, I think I've kind of answered this already too, but ask it again. Let me see if I can find a different direction for that.
How does knowing your purpose fortify your sense of identity?
Yeah. Again, it's consistency. If I know my purpose in life, then I know where I'm going in life. I know who I am. And the problem with not knowing my purpose, again, as I said before, is you don't know your identity. But if you don't know your identity, then you don't understand also how you're different from other people.
Yeah.
You don't have a roadmap for where you're heading in life.
Yeah.
Understanding your purpose is absolutely paramount to understanding everything else about yourself. It has to be first, it has to be clear, it has to be concrete, and it doesn't change. That's the unique thing, is purpose never changes. So if your purpose is changing, then your identity changes also. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but that's what's in my head.
No, it doesn't, we just go
It
where Holy Spirit is leading
Exactly.
us.
Yeah.
And what changes when someone finally says with confidence, I am who I am?
Yeah. It's so powerful. When a person finally comes to realization of who they really are, suddenly there's confidence. There's boldness. There's more than anything, there's peace. I mean, we walk through life with mystery after mystery. What's tomorrow? What's the next day? Who am I going to marry? What's going to happen? Am I going to have kids? Am I going to be successful? They have all this mystery. When you finally get a hold of this, suddenly you have answers and you're at peace, complete peace. For people who don't discover this, they're going to keep walking through a life of questions without answers. And where are the answers going to come from? Again, the world, the broken world.
Yeah.
People who are well-intending, but a world that says this is what's true, this is not true, and nothing's concrete. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did I answer that?
Yeah. I'm just thinking of, I'm going a little bit off
Sure. No, go ahead.
But when people are leaning into multiple truths, and I think there's this huge concept in healing and spirituality of surrender and trusting, but trusting and surrendering to who and to what.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the key, because so many times, and even Christians, whether you're religious or irreligious, whatever you are, you have to trust something. You have to land somewhere. It's just BS to say everything's relative. It's your truth, my truth. It's ridiculous. There's no peace in that. There's no peace in saying there's no need for peace. So we need to understand that we got to find something to land on and be firm on to really have peace in our life. Otherwise, we live with anxieties. Everybody lives with anxieties and fears and worries. The only way to get past those things is to know who you are, is to know why you are, know what makes you unique from other people, and have a purpose of destiny. If we don't have those things, then we flounder through life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting because if we don't discover these things and find out who we are, then we are never the influencer. We're always the influenced. And that's so key. So in the world today, we talk about influencers. But if we're going to influence the world, we've got to stop being influenced or be very particular what and who influences us.
Yeah.
And if we don't really have a firm idea of who we are, then we're influenced by everything and everyone. And we stop being the influencer. I share with my boys since they're little kids. I said, if you're in friendships and situations where you're not influencing, you're being influenced. Is that a good influence or a negative influence? Always pay attention to that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's the difference then between being different and unique?
Yeah. First thing is mindset. I mean, they're very different. Being different from someone and being unique are two different mindsets. Being different is very divisive. Being unique is very uniting. So if I'm different, and to be different is always dependent upon something else. To be unique isn't. If I'm different, it means I'm different from you, or I'm different from this, I'm different from that. If I'm unique, there's no dependence on anything else except for who I am.
Yeah.
Uniqueness is extremely different from difference. Play on words. But if we don't discover the uniqueness of who we are, then we keep running after the difference. And that's where negativity comes in, anxiety comes in, worry comes in. Why am I so different? Why am I unique? Because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made.
Right.
That's why I'm unique. Yeah.
I'm going to go back into the last question of, who am I and your destiny? Because you said something about relativism. And I'm just curious how that relates to, having peace, how that can correlate with science, or does it? Does that make sense?
I'm not sure I'm understanding. Yeah.
So there's a theory of relativity, right?
Sure.
And so, when we talk about spirituality and faith, how does that support it, or does it?
How does what I said support it? Well, let me
Sure.
jump to where I think you're going. Yeah. People tend to still think, and it's becoming more of a minority, that think that science disproves spiritual truth or the scriptures. And that's the farthest thing from the truth. We know today that quantum physics, we begin to split the atom and break things down as far as we can. We begin to discover that there is an order to things. And so things aren't relative, it's not free will of the atom or the single cell, it's determinism. I hope this is where
Sure.
where I'm
No, I
going?
love it. Yeah.
So anyone who's studying science today, quantum physics especially, understands that you have to discover Big Bang or evolution or creation. You have to figure things out. The bottom line between all of that is there a free will of the single cell, or is there a determinism? Meaning this is the structure of everything determined? Does it have a structure, a formula, or does it just happen by chance? Old evolution would say it's by chance, billions and billions of years of chance, and single cell, and there's this evolutionary process. We know today, honest scientists who look at the evidence and are willing to put aside their prejudice against religion or creationism will say, yeah, there is determinism. They break down the single cell. And the single cell, when they break it down, pull it apart, what they've discovered is it doesn't stay separate, it rebuilds itself, restructures itself. That's one thing, that's extremely interesting.
Yeah.
But the amazing thing is, it restructures itself the same way every single time. And not just one single cell being broken down, it restructures itself the same way every time, but every single cell broken down restructures itself the same way every time, which says it's not free will, it's determinism. So if there's determinism in the single cell, in mankind, in all of life, then there must be someone who determined that.
Right.
So one who determined that is the architect of creation. You can call it architect of evolution if you want, but clearly there's something that absolutely is the architect and the determiner of the determined process of life itself.
Wow.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
So no one can argue that. People who deny it, the scientists who deny it say it makes sense, but the outcome of creation is something I can't grasp. Okay. So deny truth because you can't land on it. And you go right back to what I said before. You'll go with any truth and truths because you can't land on the truth. Yeah. That's my soapbox.
Mic drop.
Yeah, exactly. Bam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I one thing that always kind of when I kind of came back into my faith and into to Christ is, why do people worship the creation, the universe, and not the creator?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because in a few spiritual beliefs, people are always saying, thank the universe, praying to the universe. And so that stirred something up in me. It was because I always called myself a truth seeker, and it just didn't sit right. And so I think when you explain that, it makes so much sense to me that, why would we worship or idolize the painting
Right.
and not the painter who created the painting?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting because Romans talks about that.
Yeah.
God allows us to do so. That's what's interesting. People misunderstand Romans 1. Romans 1 is literally telling us that God loves us so much that he creates us, but then he allows us to go away, to pull away from him. But it's almost like, I've always said, it's like a rubber band. God puts a rubber band around us, and we can pull away and pull away and pull away as far as we can, but the further we pull away, the more tension's there.
Yeah.
More frustration's there, till finally, if you give in, come right back. Romans even talks about the fact that there is a hole in us. It's an empty space that belongs to God. We know it's there. We have it there. But we choose to put idols there instead, creation there instead, the universe there instead, anything that feels better to us. Because God's a mystery. And people get this concept. It's so wild. And I did too before I was a believer, is that if I believe in God, then there's judgment. And there's right and there's wrong. And oh my gosh, I've done lots of wrong. Suddenly there's condemnation, there's judgment, there's sin, and there's a whole lot of weight on my shoulders. I don't want that. I want to worship the universe.
Yep.
The universe doesn't judge me.
Yep.
But what they don't get is that God doesn't judge us. He loves us. It really became clear when I became a father. When we had kids, we didn't have kids so they would do everything right. If that was the case, I failed. So we have kids. My wife and I decided to have kids because we wanted something from us that we could love unconditionally. We didn't have kids so they could mow our lawn or take out the trash. We had kids not to do something for us, but to receive something from us, our love. And that's why God created us.
Right.
Not to judge us, not to make sure we do everything perfect, but that we'd make a choice to receive his love and be loved by him. What a huge difference that is.
So beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to speak a little bit into that, I think that is the right kind of love, the unconditional love that we all so seek. And we lost when, we came into this world of sin. And I believe there's a big parallel with why people are drawing away from faith and from God because of human hurt and
Yeah.
familial trauma and unloving parents.
Mm-hmm.
So the wrong way to love, is transactional,
Yeah.
is conditional,
Right.
and a lot of people, I think, have that relationship with their parents, and
Yeah.
I can speak for myself as well. There's
Me too.
been a lot of childhood wounds and hurt from that, and that's caused so much disconnection from God because
Yeah.
of that. Can you speak a little bit into that?
Yeah. I mean, we all have testimonies.
Yeah.
You know, the interesting thing, I'll preface by saying this, because I don't know who's going to hear this, is we all have our own view of how things happen in our lives. We can be in the same family, the same home, but we have a different view because we see the world through our eyes, and we see experiences through our eyes, and we experience those experiences with our emotions. So you can be in the same household and see things differently. But what's real? It's not what you see. It's what I experience. So I say that because I've talked with my sister, I love dearly, and her upbringing was different from mine. I'm the youngest of 3 kids, and she was very close with my parents. She was the only daughter, and so she was very close and spent a lot of time with them. I saw that as a young kid. I was different. I was the 3rd child, 2nd boy. Typically, that's kind of like a redundancy. So I just was always doing my own thing. So I was raised in a home, from my perspective, that was normally dysfunctional as an American family. So I didn't know what real love was. I didn't understand what real love was. From the youngest of age, I can remember thinking I was in the wrong place. I should be someplace else. And so I started thinking about traveling. I remember as a little kid thinking about traveling and going places and climbing mountains and doing all these things. I was running after something. And what I was really running after was love. I wanted to be loved. I didn't know what being loved really was. And when God grabbed hold of me in 1980, I was as a surf bum doing crazy things. God grabbed hold of me, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I was loved by someone. Changed everything. Changed my perspective of life. I wasn't running after anything any longer. I found something, or something found me, where I suddenly felt like I was complete.
Yeah.
It was a different kind of love, like you said. You know, it's hard. It was no longer believing all the things I've been told about myself. I was told from the youngest age, I was the dumb one. I was the hopeless one. I was the untalented one in the family. That's what I was told from the youngest age I can remember. And so I grew up believing that. So I decided, well, I'm just going to play sports, and I became a sports fanatic, and that was my identity for years. It was sports. And then I lost it. You know, so everything that I knew was wrapped up in what I was told about myself. And when God grabbed hold of me, I discovered, well, I'm not dumb, and I'm not untalented, and I'm not hopeless. And suddenly my world changed. I've got more education than anyone in my family now. I've done more things. I've traveled more places, not because I'm anything special, because I'm who God created me to be. And if you don't discover the love that God has for you, you won't discover who you really are. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that's what we call discovering your spiritual fingerprint
Absolutely.
and discover your DNA.
Absolutely. Good.
We didn't actually talk about what DNA means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's flow with that for a second.
Yeah.
DNA. So everyone knows DNA. You know, that's the cell. The whole idea of our creation, what makes us unique biologically. You know, it's the molecules that create everything in the organisms. But we not only have a physical DNA, we have a spiritual DNA. Our spiritual DNA, what I call our divine nature assignment. God creates us all a certain way for a certain purpose. Every child is created a certain way. Every person's created a certain way. We walk through life, whether we're religious or irreligious, we walk through life not knowing our divine nature assignment. When you discover God in your life and you suddenly have this relationship with God, you're just at the beginning of discovering your DNA. Your DNA is still waiting to be discovered. I know Christian after Christian they have no idea what they're doing on planet Earth. And that's the whole idea of this whole course, to discover your divine nature assignment. Why has God created you and put you here on planet Earth? That's your purpose. Who are you, therefore? That's your identity. What makes you unique? That's what God puts into you and how He created you specifically. And then what's your roadmap, destiny, and life? That's the whole divine nature assignment. But the beauty is, it's not predestined. It's not like every single thing you do in life is predestined. That's ridiculous. There's no free will in that. And that's not love, that's manipulation. That's not who God is. God is free. He's love. He sets us free from all bondages. He doesn't put chains on us or yokes on us. But what does it mean then? It means that we have the free will to walk through life. What is God predestined? The final destination. He's predestined us to be with him. So we walk through life and do many different things. And if you don't discover your DNA, you just kind of flounder as a Christian. Going through life, go bouncing like a pinball machine, bouncing off the sides and bumpers all until you're finally frustrated. But God designs us a certain way that we have a destiny. He's destined us to be with him. And then he has places on that road where God will bless us. I call them Kairos moments, where we step through to a place where God says, you're on the right path, step through here and see what I have for you. And you say, yeah, and step through, and suddenly you go, wow.
Yeah.
You stepped into a whole different place with your relationship with God. And I'll go with it, because that's what I always do. When you step through a Kairos, to that moment in God, on that journey to where God is calling you to, in that free will permission, you go through a Kairos moment where God says, step through here. We walk through, and God says, now what's ahead of you is Pleroo, which is fulfillment of my destiny for you. So if God calls you through a moment in time and says, step through here, Christine, I have something different, and you step through that, whether you know it's going to, God, I'm going to trust you, you step through it. God says, now what's ahead of you is the fulfillment of this step you just took. That's Pleroo. Time, we know in biblical language, there's 3 types of time: Chronos, Kairos, and Pleroo. Chronos is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. That's Chronos, chronological time. Kairos are the supernatural moments where God says, he invades your life and says, step through with me. Pleroo is, now see the fulfillment of what I just called you to. It's beautiful.
That is beautiful.
So cool. Yeah.
So,
and we miss those Kairos moments in the Pleroos because we don't think there's a plan. We just kind of go, okay, I'm just going to live my life. No. Divine nature assignment says, know why you are, know who you are, know what makes you unique, and understand the roadmap that God has for you, and experience the Kairos moments and the Pleroo moments that your heart aches for.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit passionate about that.
That's beautiful, and it's bringing me almost to tears because I'm just seeing all the dots connected, because, all these big questions I had of life ever since I was young, and, is there destiny? Is there free will? And there is both. And I did always believe that. And it's just this knowing I always had, and that I was put on this earth to, love others and to love God. And now it just all makes sense. And, that is my purpose. But then now how do I walk in the fruits of that and live out my destiny? Yeah. And just following and trusting that, God knows, and he's been there before. Yeah. And so,
He knows it because we forget that he's outside of our frame of time. Yeah. He's not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He's now. Everything is now to God. So he knows exactly what's going to fulfill our hearts. He doesn't make us do it. He allows us to have it. It's beautiful. That's going back to where I was raised. I never knew who I was. I didn't even know what I wanted. You're a little kid, you think, I'm going to be a cowboy. I'm going to be a police officer. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. You get older, I'm going to be a professional football player. And you start having these ideas. And I didn't know what I wanted. All I knew from a very young age, what I knew was I love being with people. Yeah. I just loved being a nice kid. I loved helping people. And I wasn't, it's not that's the way I was raised. It's just kind of what felt right to me. And it's interesting, when I suddenly discovered my DNA, my divine nature assignment, I knew where I was going. And suddenly this little kid who left home at a young age, this little hopeless, less talented, less intelligent person, in the family, suddenly I've traveled to 66 different countries, been on 6 different continents, feeding orphans, taking care of people, seeing people healed, educating people, training people, building businesses, handing them to people, done all this work through my whole life, and I sit back and I go, I just lived a life of loving on people. Yeah. And that's the most fulfilling thing I can possibly do. Amen. And every time I try to retire from doing it, God says, not quite done yet. Yeah.
Like now.
Yeah, the ongoing joke. Yeah, God doesn't let me retire. He just relocates me and reloads me. Yeah.
Well, we're glad you're here with us.
Thanks.
Yeah. So where am I going? The destiny aspect. How do you help people align their dreams with God's design for them?
Yeah. So it's a great question. I always take people back to this. Proverbs 20 verse 5 says, the dreams of a man's heart are like deep waters, but the wise one draws them up. So when you discover your DNA, and you discover there is a roadmap for me. There is a destiny for me. There's something. How do I tap into what that is? How do I know what that is? The dreams of a man's heart are like deep waters, and the wise man draws them up. What that means is, translate that from biblical language means this. There are dreams inside of each one of us that God puts there. The living waters the living waters of the earth are the waters that are constantly flowing and moving. They don't stop. They're not stagnant. They're always fresh, pure. They keep flowing. They're just powerful. Those are deep down inside the earth. They're deep down inside of us. Like those are the dreams, are like deep waters, living waters. That's the life source of who we are. There are dreams that God puts inside of each one of us. Not just our dreams that, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to climb a mountain, but dreams that God puts inside of us. When we begin to discover our DNA and that we have a destiny, and we discover who God made us to be and our uniqueness, suddenly those things come to mind. What am I really passionate about? Is it this? Is it this? And what I tell people is to discover those dreams, just lean toward them. Think what makes me feel really good inside that I could possibly do. Start leaning toward that. I say this so much, it's ad nauseum. I say this, is we fall the way we lean. We lean the way we look. We look the way we think, and we think the way we talk. So start talking about the things that make you feel good inside. If you start talking about those things, I love helping people. I love seeing people, the homeless people get stuff and get taken care of, and I love seeing orphans get new families, get loved on people. I love seeing this, or whatever it may be. I love seeing these things. It's not just those are my things, but you start thinking about those things, start talking about them. I love the idea of being successful in business and influencing people's lives and seeing their lives transform. Start talking about that. The more you talk about it, the more you'll think about that. Talk about it with people. Think about it with people. And the more you talk about it, the more you think about it, the more you think about it, the more you start leaning toward that place in life to where that becomes possible for you. You lean far enough, you fall into it. We always fall the way we lean. We always lean the way we think. We always think the way we talk. So if you want to find the dreams that God has for you, start talking about the things that make you feel good inside, make you feel that could fulfill me. Start talking about them. That's what I tell people.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's what Discover Your DNA, the coaching program, the container, the community of Life Source Academy is really about, right? So that people have a safe space to learn, to grow, to connect, and to really walk out their purpose.
Absolutely. To start transforming their true transformation of identity. No longer speaking the negative and the hopelessness out there, speaking the positive and the hope out there. Change the way we talk, change the way we think, change all of that. And that's what the transformation process is all about. How do I do it? This is how.
Beautiful.
You come through the program, and this. It's an exciting program. Once you get through this, suddenly you discover not only who you are and why you are, what your uniqueness is and what your destiny is, but suddenly you begin to discover you have the power to fulfill those things. Suddenly you have the confidence to be who you now know you are. We think we're confident early in our life, but we're trying to convince ourselves how confident we are and how bold we may be or how sure we are. But once you go through this, you have confidence. You have absolute confidence because you know who you are and whose you are. You know how exactly you were created to be. You know your personality type. You know your spiritual giftedness. You know your calling of God. You know these things. And now the roadmap is laid before you. And all it takes now is one step at a time. That's complete confidence and boldness and confirmation comes through this program.
So good.
I've seen so many people not just discover this truth, but experience inner healing. Because once you start going through this, you start realizing, wow, where did those lies come from? Where did this pain come from? And thankfully with LSA, we have those services as well. But inner healing is so vitally important to figure out if you can't let go of something, a lie that's in your life, it's probably there, it's deep-rooted inside of you. Let's find out where it is. Let's get rid of that and now see you propel forward.
Absolutely.
So, all part of the program.
And that goes into my next question of what would you say to someone who feels like they missed their chance at their destiny?
As long as you are breathing, you haven't missed your chance. There's always today, there's always tomorrow. Hopelessness is man-made, and it's man-created, it's man-instilled, it's the right word I'm looking for. Nurtured. That's the word I'm looking for. We nurture that type of stuff. It's not what God created us for. So as long as we have breath in our lungs, as long as we have another day in front of us, we have a destiny that we can achieve, we can reach toward. And I believe that once, I don't care how old you are, I'm a perfect example of it. Once you really grab hold of that, you've got more days, you have more life, you have more years. God's going to give you more because you're walking in your destiny. misunderstand. I'm not saying that God will take you to heaven earlier if you know you got your destiny. I'm not saying that. But I just have this sense inside of me that says, when you're walking your destiny that God's called you to, there's more life for you. There's more purpose for you because you're walking it out suddenly. You're actually finally fulfilling what God has for you.
Right.
There's a lot more lives to be touched by your destiny.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
If that made sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's really about the impact for all, not just for us.
Yeah. Because we're influenced. We're touching lives every single day. To watch people's lives change just because we say something, because we believe something, that's inspiring.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that just fills us full of hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after someone walks through this program, what is the transformation they can expect? And I think you touch on some of this, but any last words?
Yeah. Discover your DNA is something that changed my life. Now I'll get emotional. It radically changed my life when I came to grips with this whole concept of there's answers to those 4 questions. First of all, that there's 4 questions. I mean, I didn't really realize there was 4 questions that we all asked. Once I began to deep dive into that, I realized everybody's asking the same questions I've been asking my whole life. I suddenly didn't feel alone. Even though I didn't have the answers yet, because I knew the questions, I didn't feel alone. I feel like, well, there's a whole lot more people out there who are asking the same questions. Now what are the answers? So now the deep dive goes where I start digging into what are the answers. And it just unfolds beautifully. It's not even hard. It just unfolds before you. Once it begins to unfold, it radically changes everything. So for me, to go through life without having these answers is one thing. To go through life not having the questions is a whole nother thing. Just discovering there's questions that we all have, then we know that there's answers to those questions. It's not all relative again. It's not everyone's answers are fine. They're all the same. No, there are answers that are right. There are answers that are life-fulfilling and life-giving. And I think that's the key, life-giving. When we're living a life purposed by God, we're not just living it, we're giving it. And I love talking about that. The life God has for us is for us to give away. It's to make an impact of this earth, to leave a real footprint on this earth. And if we really know what God's called us to, then we'll touch lives and change lives, and we'll leave a footprint. I've told people so many times, I don't travel to escape life. I travel so life won't escape me. I just want to experience life. I just want to experience it because I know that every step I take, I'm touching people. And not because it's my intention, it's because it's what happens. So, discover the questions, discover the answers, discover who you are and why you are, what makes you unique, what your destiny is, and you're going to change the world. And that's the most important thing, what God has called us to do. He's called us to change the world. It's not on our shoulders, it's in our DNA. And I really want to, I said that again, the calling to change the world, so many Christians put it on their shoulders and think, I have to do this, so many things. No, it's not on your shoulders, it's in your DNA. Live your DNA and you're changing the world. One day at a time, one person at a time, one truth at a time. Just speak it out there and lives are changed. That's changing the world.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So who is the perfect person for this program, this transformation?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I want to say every single person who lives on this earth, because if you don't have the answers to these questions, then you need this. And honestly, for me, it's people who know they're on the journey. They're seeking truth. They're seeking answers. People who are hungry for truth. This is great for them. People who have a sense of lostness on this journey. This is for them. People aren't sure who they really are. They've got so many things they've been told. This is for them. If you're looking for answers, looking for clarity of thought, if you just want to find your purpose, I mean, this is it. This will walk you through it. Just one of those things you want. I want to know who I am. This is for you. I want to know why I am. This is for you. Any one of those, this is for you, because all the other ones come with those answers. So I don't want. I hate seeing people floundering through life. And as you know, I counsel people every day. I do ministry work with people every day, all week, all the time. And the hardest thing for me to experience and deal with are people who just, when I ask them, so where are you going in life? What's your goal? What's your purpose? And they can't give me an answer. It's like, oh my gosh, you need to know that there's answers to these questions. So it rips me up inside when people can't answer those questions,
Yeah.
and that's why I think everybody needs this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do they have to be a believer or, yeah.
No, you don't have to be a believer, but if you take this, you'll be a believer because you find the foundation of everything.
Yeah.
And this isn't to convert people. It's not to brainwash people. It's not to make sure, okay, if you take this, we've designed it, you become a Christian. No, that's not the point of it. The point is to help people discover who they really are and why they really are and why they're unique and what their destiny is. But I promise you, on this journey, if you really want truth, you will discover truth.
Yeah.
And the truth will set you free, as the word
Yes.
says. There is one truth. So I've talked to many of people who aren't necessarily Christian believers. I've shared these truths with them. I shared this process, this whole destiny, discover your DNA with them, and their eyes are open. They go, wow, this makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Usually the next words out of their mouth are, I'm not sure how I can make this jump, but I think I need to. It's like, okay, let's talk about that now.
Yeah.
So yeah. So anyone can take this. Anyone should take this. It is truth, and it will enlighten you for sure.
Yeah, beautiful. I think sharing my own testimony, I tried to look for purpose and identity in all the wrong places, you know, my external achievements, and even in previous spiritual beliefs, you know, I thought that I found purpose and meaning and identity, but it was coming from the self.
Oh yeah.
So that's not unconditional, and it is conditional on what I can do for myself.
Yeah.
So, I really believe that this is going to set people free from that and really own their worthiness in their identity and who they are and whose they are.
Yes.
And
yes.
I'm just so excited for it.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait for people to actually get a hold of this and see how it can change our lives.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
a cool place we're in.
Yeah.
It's an awesome place we're in right now.
Yeah.
So, and we're here for a reason. For us, we're right here in Bali. So being in Bali at a time like this, and I keep saying it, we all keep saying it, God's doing something.
Yeah.
God is doing something here, and I believe this is part of it. I've taught this for years, but not on this level. And now it feels to me like God is saying, this is the breakthrough. This is the time to give it to the world. And man, I can't wait. I can't wait to see what God does with this movement that we're experiencing right now.
Amen.
Yeah. Such a time as this.
So good. Yeah. So before we hop off, I'd love for you to just share a little bit about Life Source Academy and what we have coming with that.
Yeah, you can help me with that because Christine is the director of Life Source Academy. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Life Source Academy, you can explain it better than I can, but really simply, it's a platform where we have coaching, mentoring, counseling, special ministry services available to people as well. We have a ministry or educational track. We have workshops. What else can we give? The ministry tracks. We have several ministry tracks or educational tracks that if people want to know more about the Word of God, more about leadership, more about communication, we have tracks for people that, based on what you need, we'll give you a test. They'll tell us what you're really looking for, what to accomplish in life. Then we put you on a track of education, how to get there. Super simple, super affordable. And the whole idea is let's put you on a path to get to where you think you need to be. And once you go through Discover Your DNA, now you know where you need to be. So it's a track to help you get there. The coaching is there to help people. The mentoring is there to help people. The counseling is there to help people go through the inner healing, anything else they need. We want it to be a one-stop shop so we can help people really discover and fulfill their life.
Yeah.
It's kind of the Chronos, Kairos, and Playru of platforms.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hope that made sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I would say that we came together because I do feel like God brought us together and we were doing separate things. And when we met, it just really seamlessly, the platform, the purpose, the mission behind it, the vision, I think is what God wants for us and for people. And so I think, like for me, Life Source Academy is a full service, mission-based platform where people can go through the process of healing, of discovering themselves, and then walking out their purpose and creating more impact in the world, in their communities, while feeling confident in their abilities and in their leadership. So we're just creating more leaders around the world and more people who are loving and kind. And we have different teachers like yourself and Yuli and counselors and people who we really vet and have different gifts as well, you know, the teachers, the counselors,
Right.
the healers,
Right.
and well, Jesus is the true healer.
Truth. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, we welcome all, whether you are a believer or not, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
We're just here to, you know, love and to teach and to share.
Right.
And there's no judgment, there's no
No,
condemnation.
absolutely
That's not
not.
what we're here for. But
Yeah.
we're just here to build community and to give back.
Yeah,
So,
it's just reconnecting people to a loving Father.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the way you explained it. That's exactly what LSA is. It's wonderful. And it is amazing to me how God put this together with us. Because our heart was to do certain things, and I've taught so many different things, teaching for so many years. And when we came together and started talking, this immediately came up. DNA, discover your, we called it several different things, from born identity to discover your DNA.
yeah.
But to finally land and realize that, wow, this is foundational. And we both agreed upon that. So,
Yeah.
to me, it's a God thing.
Yeah.
God put this whole thing together for a bigger purpose than you or I.
Yes.
So, but thank God we're part of it.
Amen.
And we're going to see so many lives change. That's,
So good.
I just can't wait to see the lives change, the glow in people's faces when they start discovering this truth.
Yeah.
It's just radical.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Amen.
Thank
Good
you
stuff.
so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And if you feel like you are ready to just find clarity and confidence in why you are, who you are, and what you're here for, maybe you've been living someone else's story and you're feeling like you're chasing success but not feeling fulfilled inside, then this program is for you. We invite you to join us, and we'll put the links in the show notes. You can reach out to us directly and we can answer any questions that you have. And yeah, we're just so excited to have you and to share this with you. And we'll see you on the inside of Discover Your DNA and Life Source Academy. Thank you all.
Amen. Thank you.